It's time for another Kansas Baseball Weekend preview. As always, joined by the skipper, KU head coach Rich Price. I'm Kevin McCarty. Skip, over the weekend, tough ball games for you, but able to bounce back Tuesday against Wichita State and looking ahead to Baylor this weekend. Talk about where your team's at right now.
Well, Kevin, I thought Tuesday night obviously was a great win and was a momentum builder for our club that we obviously needed to have somebody clutch up, get a big hit, and Dakota Smith did that in the bottom of the 11th inning last night, and certainly ends up being a great win when it's 1-0 against Wichita State. And it was almost the exact same games that you and I watched get played in West Virginia, where we lose three devastating one-run ball games where we had opportunities to win, we had runners in scoring position, and some of our best players had a really tough weekend with the bat, and those are the same guys that have gotten it done all year for us. And my Giants have lost like 5 in a row, and they're going through this similar thing where Posey's struggling with the bat a little bit, and you see the peaks and valleys throughout a college baseball season, just like it mirrors a professional baseball season. But for us to be good, the reality is Alex DeLeon, Jordan Dreiling, Michael Suter, Dakota Smith, they hit in the middle of our lineup. They have to produce. And unfortunately for us, 4 of those 5 guys had a really tough weekend at West Virginia, and it seemed like every time we had guys in scoring position, those guys were up. And those are competitive young men. I mean, they're up there trying to get the job done, and they know when they're struggling, and they know when they're letting the club down, and that hole just kind of gets bigger, if you will. So the thing I was most pleased with about last night's win was that, Michael Suter works the count full, gets a leadoff base hit. He was 0 for 4 prior to the at-bat and had 4 really bad at-bats, and he leads it off with a base hit, and then DeLeon goes 3-2 and then wears a pitch to get on base. And Dreiling, who struggled all weekend at West Virginia, laid down an absolutely perfect sacrifice bunt that turned into a base hit down the third base line to load the bases. And then Dakota Smith, who I think was 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position at West Virginia, comes up and clutches up with a game-winning base knock. And it was nice to see the same people that struggled on the weekend at West Virginia produce against Wichita State, and hopefully that momentum will carry over into this weekend against Baylor.
Obviously, you never want to go through a stretch like this, but is there some value to being in the grind and having guys get that experience and find ways to produce?
Well, I think the interesting thing about it is I think we have 6 one-run wins in conference, and we also have 2 12-inning losses that are 3-2 and 2-1. One at Oklahoma, and then obviously the 12-inning game and Game 3 at West Virginia. We've been fortunate enough to pitch really well in conference, and a lot of that's about our starting pitching's been good, and then obviously Jordan Pache at the back end of the games, his numbers are better than anybody in the country right now. He leads the nation in earned run average, and we play really good defense. So we've been able to manufacture runs. We lead the Big 12 in stolen bases. We lead it in sacrifice bunts. Our guys have done a really good job of executing. Unfortunately, we just could not get a clutch 2-out base hit all weekend at West Virginia. And anybody that's played this game knows what that feeling's like. You know when you're 0 for 4. You know when you've got 0 for 4 the night before, and you press. And when you invest and you care, that happens. And you just keep preaching to your guys. You got to flush one at bat after another, but it's a lot easier said than it is done sometimes.
You brought up Buster Posey, catcher, first baseman. Talk about your catcher, first baseman, Alex DeLeon, been one of your hottest hitters. Almost hit a grand slam against Wichita State and has just been super hot lately.
Yeah, I've actually never seen that happen before, where you have a ball get called a home run and for a grand slam, I think in the 5th inning, and then have the umpires get together and take it off the board. It's the first time I've ever seen it. But I've also never seen a squirrel run on the field and seen a player pick him up in its helmet like the Wichita State kid did last night too. But he's been red hot. I mean, he's been the most productive player on our team offensively the entire season, and I think we have 8 home runs total, and he's got 6 of them. So you look at his RBI totals, he's 10 or 15 ahead of the next closest guy. He's had an outstanding senior season, and it's been really fun to watch. It's been really fun to watch his development the 4 years in our program, to go from being an immature freshman to being an impact player. And not only is he an impact player for us now, I'm sure he'll get a chance to play professional baseball when the season's over as well.
Take away the record over the last 4 games, and pitching staff, can it be any better? I think giving up 1 run a game, huge outings from Taylor on the weekend. Benjamin pitched well, Frank Duncan bounced back, and then Kahana against Wichita State was outstanding.
Yeah, that's 4. Those are about 4 as good a games you're ever going to see pitched right in a row. And what's interesting about our conference right now is you look at the runs scoring, and it's way down. And I think it's a tribute to the pitching in our league. Obviously, it has something to do with the bat change as well. But I think the reality of it is last weekend almost 3/4 of the games were 1 runs across the board in our great conference. And I think it speaks volumes to the quality of pitching in the Big 12 Conference.
You talk about the conference a little bit. Last weekend we entered second place in the middle of the pack now, but with a chance to play against Baylor this weekend with second place standing for them, and then Kansas State also ahead of us in the rankings. Chance to move up against those two squads.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we all recognize how devastating the weekend was. We played arguably the four best teams in the league, with Baylor coming up this weekend. When we went to West Virginia, if we'd have won the series, I think we'd have a 2-game lead on the field in second place. And unfortunately, we got swept. We've played one more series than everybody that's ahead of us. And K-State's got a tough weekend at Texas to go play in that huge yard with the way they're pitching. We have a chance to play them on the final weekend and move ahead of them if we win the series. We got a chance to move up ahead of Baylor if we win the series this weekend. And I think the great thing about the situation we're in, I told our players, as devastating as the West Virginia weekend was, what they had done the previous 5 weeks, we were in the NCAA tournament when we threw the first pitch last Friday night. Unfortunately, we played our way out of it last weekend. Now we have a chance to play our way back into it the next 2 weekends. And I think that's all any club can want. Throughout a course of a 9-week conference season, as good as this league is, when you play in a BCS conference, you're going to have a tough weekend on the road. It happens to everybody in our league. And hopefully our players are handling it right. They're continuing to work hard, be mature. We get to finish at Hoglund Ballpark. And if we win the final 2 series, I think we'll play our way back into the NCAA tournament.
You talk about opportunities for your team, but also opportunities for fans in the coming weeks to come out and support the Jayhawks. Incredible weather Tuesday night. How big was the crowd, and are you looking forward to seeing more folks at the ballpark over the final home stretch?
Yeah, we have some really loyal fans. I mean, the reality is when you play baseball at the University of Kansas in February and March and part of April, it's going to be cold out there. And you got to be a loyal baseball fan to go sit out there and when it's 28, 30, 34 degrees. And we had an interesting stat the other day is until last night when it was beautiful and the crowd was great last night for Wichita State, we had not played a Tuesday or Wednesday night game where there had been 45 degrees. Every game we had played had been 42, 40, 39, 28. It's been unbelievable how cold it's been. And it was awesome to have a beautiful night last night. It was awesome to see the crowd as great as it was. And we're hopeful that the people in the community will rally around our club and support us against Kansas State and Baylor and see if we can finish this thing on a positive note.
All right, that'll do it for the Kansas baseball weekend preview. We'll see you at Hoglund Ballpark this weekend against Baylor, 6 o'clock on Friday, 2 o'clock Saturday, and 1 on Sunday.